guys, this is Carrie with Fullerton Professional Organizing, and today we're going to talk about someone that I've talked about last week. Her name is Melanie Renee, and she's got a YouTube channel, A Hoarder's Heart, and in this one she talks about ADHD. Before, she talked about the mindsets of a hoarder, because she's a hoarder. She's very sweet. She has a very good way of explaining the mindset of a hoarder, because that's what she is, and she's recovering, and she's just precious and very sweet. So now she's talking about ADHD, and I know a lot about ADHD, but we're going to talk about what she has to say about it. And like I said, she's from Melanie Renee, Miss Heart, on YouTube channel called A Hoarder's Heart. And here's what she says about ADHD from someone that has it. Now, ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADD, neurological disorders that kind of affect your brain, and it happens in children and adults. We tend to have a really hard time paying attention to the everyday, mundane tasks and routines. We typically can only stay in full attention if our hyper focus is triggered, normally on something that we are very interested in. And in that case, we can hold focus for 4 hours if it's something we're really interested in. Matter of fact, when I'm in hyper focus mode, I don't even get hungry. I forget to eat, and I have to be very conscious of everything I do, because hyper focus is what happens when you're really interested in something. But if you are not interested in it, it is very hard to stay focused. Now, I just have a slight attention deficit disorder. There are definitely more severe cases. I happen to be a teacher, so I've always been organized, and that always helped me. So I never really had a problem with my ADHD. Now, of course, I have forgotten doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And I have to set alarms so that I don't forget those things, because I get very absorbed in what I'm doing, and I forget about appointments and stuff like that. But she says we typically can only stay in full attention if we're in hyper focus. I'm just going to read that part again. Normally something that we are very interested in, because that's something that a lot of people don't understand. They say, well, if you have ADHD, how come you can stay focused for so long on one thing? Well, children love games. Children love playing outside. If it's something you love, you can hyper focus on it. But if it's something that is just an ordinary, mundane thing, that's when we have trouble. And like taxes, stuff like that. Taxes would probably blow my brain. I don't even know how I would handle that. Or bookkeeping, anything with math or computers, I leave in my husband's domain, or I hire somebody, because I just can't focus on that. So we can hold that hyper focus only for about 4 hours, but most of the time we're not hyper focused. And for myself, and we're talking about Melanie here, for Melanie, her mind tends to jump around a whole lot. And remember, she's also a hoarder and she has ADHD. She says, I always laugh and said that my mind is like the stock market ticker. You just see all this information just going by on the bottom of your screen, and you almost have to pause it so that you can stop and read what it says. But I am ADHD, so I have a hard time focusing. I do have a lot of energy, and I kind of struggle with time management and all your typical things like that. I have found that these tips have worked for me personally, so that's what we're going to talk about. That's kind of the ADHD mind. Your mind is racing so quickly that you kind of drop and go, and just on to the next task instead of focusing on one thing at a time. Your mind is going in all different directions. Now, her first tip, a one-step process. Now that I need to do is to organize this because I can't leave my notebooks and all my stuff on the couch. She loves to journal. She can hyper focus on journaling. So she's now talking about that. She can have that spread out all over the living room, all over the couch, and she can journal all day long. But she can't do that. There are other things she has to do, and other people live in the house with her. So she has to get her journals organized. So what she did was she got a basket and she put all her journaling stuff in a basket. So when she wants to journal, she can just pull the whole basket, put things back in the basket, and keep it right there next to the couch. So it's nice and convenient for the next day when she journals again. Journaling kind of helps her process her information, her feelings, and and just helps her process what she needs to get done on a daily basis. So I've got to be able to organize it really quick, meaning it's a one-step process that I can put my books away close to where I like to journal. So what I'm going to do is clean out a basket, and I already told you she puts it right there by the couch. Now, within 5 seconds, it's very important that it is as close to where I journal because I have to be able to complete the task within one stroke. One putting into the basket within 5 seconds before my mind jumps to the next thought. It's super easy to put all her journaling stuff back in the basket. And it has to be that fast and easy so that if she loses attention on it, it's already put away before she moves on to something else. And here's how she explains hyperfocus. Now, hyperfocus is when someone with ADHD can actually focus on something and be completely absorbed by a task and keep that focus for hours upon hours. I almost kind of call it our superpower, because that's when we can get so much done. And my journals are, and in her case, her journaling is her hyperfixation. My hyperfixation is when I'm hyperfixed on a hobby and interest. And of course, I need to have a journal and special pens to write with, to write about those hyperfixations that keep me in hyperfocus for hours upon hours. Again, the ADHD, it's just using your superpowers for you and not against you. Because right now, I was able to focus and complete this task. Now, when I get up in the morning and I write my journal, I can just make a quick turn, put it right into the basket. It's neat, it's contained, it's not all over the floor and all over the living room. So now the next tip is to use your hyperfixations, even for things that you're not interested in. So how does someone with ADHD kind of get encouraged to get into the mode to be able to hold their focus longer than 5 seconds to actually complete the task? Because there is where we struggle. We struggle with starting and completing a task. So I have to start up that old hyper focus that I can stay in one spot long enough to start and complete a task. So what she does is, and that's what I do as well, and it's something that anyone can do. Put on some music or put on a podcast or a book on audio and listen to something that you can really be absorbed in and really be interested in while you're getting a mundane task done. While you're doing dishes, you can be listening to music. While you're doing laundry, while you're tidying, all of those mundane tasks, most of them can be done with music or a podcast or a really interesting book on audio. Those are the things that I use to get my work done in my home. And that's what she uses. Like unloading the dishwasher is a pretty subconscious habit. I pretty much can do it on autopilot while I'm listening to my audiobook. It helps trigger my hyper focus so that I can complete the task of getting the dishes unloaded. Now, with ADHD brain and ADD brain, the brain tends to regulate our responses to stimulation. And since I'm listening to an audiobook of my current hyperfixation, what it does is it stimulates my brain, and my brain almost needs that to be encouraged to function, to stay on focus, so that I don't get easily distracted and go into all the other rooms. She can do one room at a time because she has something occupying her brain as she gets the job done. Because I have 20 random thoughts that entered my mind and I can't focus more than 5 to 10 seconds to complete a task. Washing dishes and cleaning the kitchen without any type of stimulation like the book, audio, I could not get through it. It does not hold my focus. So for anyone with ADHD or ADD, grab your phone, grab any device that has your favorite music, an audiobook, podcast, and that's what works for my ADHD to keep me focused so that I can complete a task or clean the kitchen. Tip number 3, keep your cleaning supplies close. You have to keep them close. Maybe you can keep them in the cabinet next to the toilet and the bathtub. Or maybe if you keep them in the cabinet next to the bathtub and the toilet, maybe you'll never be reminded to clean the toilet and the bathtub because they're hidden away in the cabinet. So if you have ADHD, you may need a basket right there between the bathtub and the toilet with the cleaning supplies in the pretty basket, so that when you see the cleaning supplies, you can just grab them and clean the toilet and the bathtub. You'll have cues, visual cues that remind you to get the job done. And those are quick little jobs, so you may not necessarily need the music unless you've already been using the music to clean other areas. But sometimes cues for those with ADHD have to be visual cues. So you can't keep your cleaning supplies hidden. They have to be out next to the toilet, easy to grab and go and clean. So another mundane chore that I can't keep focused on is cleaning the toilet and the bathroom. But another tip for ADHD is keep your cleaning supplies in that room. So if you have, let's say, 3 bathrooms, each bathroom is going to have their own cleaning supplies. Because by the time you go to the garage to get the cleaning supplies for the bathroom, you already see something else that needs to be done, and then you forget what you were going to the garage to do in the first place, to get the cleaning supplies for the bathroom. Now, it might not be the most visually pleasing thing to see random cleaning supplies directly next to the toilet, but there you go. That you get a pretty basket, put it in there, and you're good to go. I then leave, we get distracted. If you have ADHD, she gets distracted very easily. She says then if she has to leave the small bathroom, go to the main bathroom to go get the cleaning supplies, it leaves too much opportunity for her to get distracted. And I will, she says, because it's a chore that doesn't complete my interest. So by having the cleaning supplies directly next to the toilet, she says, I can see, I need to clean the bathroom. She says, my mind is always racing. It's always jumping from thought to thought to thought unless I'm in hyper focus. That's why the action needs to be taken as quickly as I have the thought, because boom, I have that thought and then it's gone. With ADHD, function comes first. Visual aesthetics come second. But you can make it as pretty as possible, because that's also a motivator. Next, we're going to go over your hot spots and landing areas, because ADHD is notorious for dropping stuff down when you walk in the door and going to the next task. You never officially put it away. So when you come into the house, it's probably best to put it away before you put it down, because once you put it down, you forget about it. And so here's how she says to tackle it once you've forgotten about it. So for that, we're going to set a timer. And I know exactly what you're thinking. No, not a timer. They kind of make you anxious because they're going to go off eventually. She said she used to feel that way. The timer is a neutral tool. So I changed it and I looked at it as a positive thing, because now I can chunk my time and dedicate it to cleaning up this section. So she did finally get over that, and her timer is now her friend and not her enemy. And she uses it to get 5, 10, 15 minutes of work done at a time. It just helps her get something done, because she knows she can stop after the timer goes off. But it also shows her that it didn't take as long as she thought it was going to take. So it helps work on her time management skills. She says, but I also choose a timer that visually shows me how much time is left by highlighting my actual time in red. When the timer was done, the red was all gone. It was just another visual tool for me to grasp the concept of time. Because honestly, what I think is 5 minutes is actually 20 minutes. It's almost a time blindness. And that's why ADHD tend to be late to things. And that's why it's important to have timers and alarms. That's why I set alarms, so I don't forget those doctor's appointments or meetings that I really do want to go to. But I get busy and forget. Melanie says, I have ADHD, but I also have hoarding disorder. So I kind of have 2 whammies working against me. But guess what? It's okay. I started getting I started getting into a habit of decluttering little bit at a time. And as I did that, I strengthened my decluttering muscles. I started getting better with it. So she finally reconditioned her body to let it know that I'm still safe if I declutter with the hoarding disorder. Now, she has coping mechanisms. The hoard is a security. It's a coping mechanism for all the traumas and hurt and pain. That's why people are hoarders. Hoarding disorder stems from anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD, and ADHD. So mine is anxiety and ADHD. And that's why we have practice each and every week decluttering. It's actually a routine now. So even if you're ADHD without hoarding disorder, decluttering on a regular basis is a huge help. All right, now we're just going to do a little overview of what we just said, okay? Melanie does YouTube videos talking about ADHD. The ADHD mind is one that races quickly, doing a drop and go, always moving to the next task. Melanie Renee uses her own experience with ADHD and hoarding to give us tips on staying focused on starting and completing tasks. She says, find a timer that works for you. A visual timer helps you see exactly how much time you have. Now, Melanie says with ADHD, it's just using your superpowers for you and not against you. Hyperfocus is when someone with ADHD can actually focus on something and be completely absorbed in it. And can actually focus on something and be completely absorbed by a task, focusing for hours upon hours. When you listen to an audiobook or playlist of music, it stimulates the brain and keeps it engaged so that you won't get distracted as easily. With ADHD, function comes first and visual aesthetics comes second. Create a process and a space that takes no more than 5 seconds and is no further than arm's reach to put away something that you are working on. You have to make it easy. As easy to put away as it is to leave out. Something like a basket right beside the couch to keep your journaling supplies or your knitting or your craft supplies. Help yourself stay focused long enough to complete a task or to complete something that you're currently fixated on, for like a podcast. Help yourself stay focused with a podcast or music or audiobook. In each room, keep a set of cleaning supplies within 5-second reach period. If you have to go to another room for cleaning supplies, you're very likely to get distracted and forget what you were doing. And you will not complete the task. Use a timer. She likes the one that shows the red when there's still time left. But use a timer as a neutral tool to help you stay on schedule. And the last thing is regularly practice decluttering. It strengthens the decluttering muscles and becomes routine. It also helps reduce overwhelm and anxiety. All right, guys, that's what she has to say about her tips for ADHD and cleaning. And I hope to see you on the next podcast. I appreciate you and thank you for watching.